Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is Sarah Smith here on the Sarah Smith podcast, and I have the pleasure to introduce Carlene and Aimy. They're here with me to tell us a little bit about how the event went last night. That was organised by the Mothers Who Stand for Freedom, and it was an event we called An Uncomfortable Truth, and it was all about revealing the atrocities that are going on in New Zealand and globally. So we had the pleasure of Carlene joining us, and she was one of our main speakers. So Carlene, would you maybe like to start by telling us how the event went?
Yeah, sure. First and foremost, I just want to give thanks to our Heavenly Father for bringing us all together last night. And I want to thank the Mothers Who Stand for Freedom and to yourself, Sarah, for organising an amazing event. And I mean, today we're still talking about it. We're just absolutely buzzing off the energy that we got from the people who showed up to hear an uncomfortable truth in regards to child sex trafficking, as well as satanic ritual abuse. And we're just so happy. I think we had 80 people, was it, turn up last night, and man, pretty much 99% of them were all woke to everything that we were talking about. They just needed to hear a little bit more in depth. And when you hear people's actual testimony that is real truth, that you can't discern, that you can't find fault with, it'll resonate with you. And like for me, after doing my speech and sharing our story about uncovering an international child sex trafficking ring in Northland in the Bay of Islands, the outreach and support from the people that were there last night, it actually brought me to tears, really, because we've been fighting so long to bring this truth out, and the rejection that you feel from people. And I know there's people out there that have been woke to these atrocities for years. Like, I met one lady last night who's been woke for 40 years. She couldn't have felt better about the night last night, because she found people who are waking up and realizing what this 1% has been doing to humanity on a global scale for nearly over 6,000 years. You can probably go back to the beginning of time, really. And to be amongst people who were supportive and who understood and who actually took that truth in, and you could see it changed people in their physical being, because people walked in and they were like, hey, all like kind of skeptical, kind of unsure about what they were gonna hear, and then by the end of the night it was like hugs and kisses and thank yous, and like people were singing and dancing, and it was hard for people to leave. If we didn't have to leave, we probably would have still been there. Like, yeah. I really believe that, because there's still so much to talk about. But all I can say about last night is it's done so much for me and my understanding, and it's given me more faith in humanity, that if we keep sharing and caring and working together to wake up as many people as we can, because there's so many people still asleep, it gives me faith in humanity again, and it gives me faith that what we're doing all together, like what you're doing, what the Mothers Who Stand for Freedom are doing, what Brooke's doing, what we're doing, it's all worth it.
Yeah.
And praise the Lord for last night. That's all I can say.
Amen.
It's fantastic.
And what about you, Aimy? What was your takeaway, or how did you feel walking away last night?
I feel like the people that we come in contact with who understand and who are awake, we honestly walk away feeling like we've gained another family member, and I feel the amount of love and support that everybody has for each other, and that's the way it should be. and we should be supporting each other and uplifting each other, because our vibrations need to be up there. Yeah, and love always wins, and the light always wins, and how can you go wrong with that? There was lots of that last night, and yeah, I feel great. And I want to keep on going and keep on doing it, and let's go to the next town.
Yeah, so maybe tell us a little bit about where you've come from, because you guys have just come from a big road trip around New Zealand. How did that go?
Yes, so we've been home about a week now. Before we came to do the event last night. I think we were home a week, eh?
Yeah.
Pretty much, 7 days. But we left on the 12th of 10th of October. We left home, and we pretty much done 21 towns in 21 days, going around sharing our story and how we uncovered this child sex trafficking ring, the situation at hand with that trafficking ring, the sentencings that have been handed down, where we stand with putting 2 more people away, and bringing awareness to satanic ritual abuse, and as many topics as we could really that fit into this puzzle that we've been building over the last 6 months, I reckon, trying to piece everything together and just trying to bring awareness to people who are blinded by the mainstream Muppet show. I'm talking about our New Zealand mainstream media. I call them the Muppet Show because they're all Muppets in a little play being controlled by a 1% who are pretty much a propaganda machine. They're not telling us the truth. And throughout our journey, we managed to stop outside 3 radio stations and happily tell them that they all suck at their job. But the engagement we had from people on the streets who stopped to listen to our story, we have every faith that we woke more than enough people up on that hikoi, and the friends and the following that we've gained on our page. I'm like having like 95 friend requests a day just about, from people who have heard from someone who saw us on the street, who went and shared their story with our story with their family, and then they jumped on my page to see what we're about, and now they're like following us all the time because they want to know more, they want to learn more, and that's what we wanted to do. And having the ability to testify to child sex trafficking and bringing awareness that it is real in Aotearoa, it is real globally on a level that we can't even fathom. It was important for us to do whatever we could to bring this atrocity to light, and we had an amazing time. We got to do 2 things that we truly love. One is standing up and being a voice for children who are voiceless, and the other one was getting to spend time together and strengthen our bond and being able to see what a beautiful country we have, like how lucky we are. And it made us more determined to stand for freedom, because of what this draconian government is doing and trying to strip away all our human rights and our freedom. I'm gunning for these people, I'm trying to be as loud as possible, but we've also learned that the mainstream media has a massive part to play in what we're all going through. And I want to take this fight to them somehow, so we're trying to work on a little plan, trying to brainstorm how we can hold them accountable, to try and help bring that propaganda machine down. because it has to. Seen the devastation that it's causing for people and families. They've ruined friendships because they are causing division within our own circles, and we're all fighting against each other, and it's unnecessary.
But that's what they want.
Yeah, and I think what people don't realise, because people say, you know, with the whole Biden being declared a winner now, they're saying, oh, I can't believe, or even with, you know, with Jacinda and everything, like they're saying, I can't believe the media is choosing their side. It's like, well, they're not choosing a side, they're run by the same people. It's all the same people. Like, they're not choosing, they're just doing what they do to control the narrative and to control people's minds so they can implement their little NWO plan.
Yeah. And you have to understand, you've got to do your research, guys. You have to understand that there is 1%. We are the 99. Us freedom fighters, us freedom lovers, 99% of the human race, right? We are going about life, and there is 1% that control everything that goes on in the world. You have to do your research. Find out who the 1% are. And when you find out who they are, and you find out what they actually control, you will find that the mainstream media globally, right, paid propaganda to push this 1% narrative, whatever it may be. It might be COVID-19, it might be Saddam Hussein, it might be whatever. You go back through history and you look at all the wars that have happened, and if you dig deep underneath all of that bull, you will find that mainstream media worldwide had a lot to do with causing chaos, and that's what they're paid to do. And in New Zealand, as a journalist, at the end of the day, if you're not born into this 1% and you have worked your way up the system, you have a choice to stand up for truth and stand up for your people. But if you're gonna sell out, if you're gonna sell your soul to the devil and this 1%, you are liable for all the deaths that have been caused unnecessarily, whether it be COVID-19, whether it be wars, whatever. And you're all off to get, mate. Like, at the end of the day, these people have, what's the word? They've committed treason on some level, whether it be treason, just treason, or high treason. And our mainstream media here in New Zealand, like you said, with what's going on with the US elections and them already siding with Biden, Nanaia Mahuta who is our new Minister of Foreign Affairs, she done a live with TV1 speaking about how New Zealand are going to be working with Joe Biden. Like, this is for real. And I'm listening to this, knowing my truth and what I believe in. She's off to get me. Everything she said is a form of treason because she's lying. The mainstream media is lying about Joe Biden being declared president. They have not even finished counting over there yet. There are still indictments going through court for what's happening in certain states like Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina is the other one. And our mainstream media and our government are in full support of Joe Biden, who is a pedophile. Like, he is part of an elite group of pedophiles who have been a part of trafficking children.
Like, even if you just look at those compilations of him sniffing all those kids and like touching them, like, how can you actually think that that guy is a serious president worthy of leadership? I'm just gobsmacked.
Yeah, his career in politics spans 47 years. He hasn't done nothing. He hasn't done anything, and this mainstream media are acting like he's the king of kings, like he's gonna save the world. No, he's not. He's going to drive his own country into slavery. He's sold out to communist China, just like Jacinda Ardern, just like Scott Morrison. They have all sold out. Who's the other one? Canada and Great Britain. What's his name? Boris and Trudeau. They are part of Five Eyes. You have to research Five Eyes. Kim.com, you wait for him to explode with what he's got. I know because of how the propaganda machine works, how they vilified Kim.com, right? That man, he's got to have enough evidence to lock them all away. And I can't wait for him to explode. I know he's done one live so far. He's already put out a statement. So he's warming up. He's warming up, guys. But Joe Biden, you guys really need to look into who you're supporting, if you're a leftist or whatever you want to call it. Because when the truth comes out, I don't think you're going to be able to live with yourself and what you've been supporting. And if you don't do your research, you'll never make it, mate. Donald Trump all the way. Like, this man, as soon as he got into office, his first 2 executive orders were to combat child sex trafficking and modern day slavery. Like, it's the first 2 executive orders he signed. When I discovered that, I was an avid Trump hater because I was asleep. I was asleep and I was a supporter of the propaganda machine. Then I woke up and I started doing my research into Donald Trump, and that's the first thing I found was the 2 executive orders he signed. And I'm like, you've got a man who wants to combat modern day slavery, and you've got a man who's a pedophile, and he's been in there for 47 years. Like, come on, guys. Like, how much more proof do you need?
Yeah, and I had to, I didn't plan to last night, but I did end up fully coming out in front of that group of 80 odd people to support Trump because I'm just like, because in my real life I don't really tell that many people that I'm a Trump supporter. Like, I have started slowly telling people, and
Tell everyone we support.
I'm building up my confidence to it. And last night I just, and I knew there was people in there that are Jacinda lovers and Trump haters, and I know them in my personal life or in real life, and I just thought, nah, bugger it, like, in the context of what you guys were saying and what Brooke was talking about, and with the facts that he has been putting these executive orders through, and that more pedophiles have been arrested under the Trump administration than in our whole history, like, what more evidence do people need? And like, if you can't support Trump on that one fact, like, you don't have to agree with everything he says.
Then you're a customer.
Yeah, and you're just completely deluded and living in la la land, and your brain has actually stopped functioning because you don't want to look at the evidence. And I just...
Or they're already under mind control.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and we all...
But that's through the propaganda machine. The propaganda machine is a part of mind control.
Yeah.
And
too much TV.
Disney,
Yeah.
Netflix, all of it, all TV. We don't watch TV anymore.
Yeah.
The only thing I've been watching is this election because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It is the funniest comedy I have ever seen. Watching these lefties try to take over the world. It's like Pinky and the Brain. It's crazy to see. But like yesterday, because I wanted to be more formal with how I spoke last night, I actually done 2 pages of notes right before we came to the venue. And so I went back through Trump's executive orders, and I found this article by fact checkers, right? Someone had stated that he signed 9 executive orders to do with child trafficking and modern day slavery and combating all of those issues. And these fact checkers, they were like, oh, well, this is incorrect. He's only actually done 8. And I'm like, come on, guys. Like, out of, I think he's done 56, he's signed 56 executive orders in the last 4 years that, if you read them all, I want that for our country. What he is implementing in the United States is what I want for our country. No one is talking about the fact that he has abolished all student loans. No one is talking about the fact that they don't have income tax anymore. No one is talking about the fact that he he funded $250 million this year alone for survivors of child abuse and child trafficking, past and present.
Well, they had that big event there, with his daughter.
Vanka,
Vanka.
And Bar, is it? I think it was Bar was the other one, the Attorney General.
Yeah.
Those, just those things alone should make you question.
And the big pharma, the pharmaceutical industry, that was another big one, like reducing the cost of medicine for people.
Yeah, it
Huge.
cost you like $3 for medication that used to cost you $300.
Yeah.
And now he's got what's her name? Who's the African American girl?
Candace Owens.
Now
Yep.
she's suing fact checkers.
I was just going to tell you about that. Yeah. What is it? Factcheckzuck.com. She's amazing. She's on fire.
This is what Trump's administration is doing.
Yeah.
Every part of this administration are working to take down some part of this 1% propaganda machine that has been slowly stripping us of our rights and freedoms and driving us into slavery.
Yeah, and that's what people have got to realise, that there's a bigger plan here, and he had to get all his ducks in a row in terms of the Supreme Court and getting Amy Coney Barrett in, and then like what you're talking about, doing all these executive orders so that when finally he does get reinstated and gets a second term, he's got all his just all legally above board set up, so that then, because if they had gone and done all the arrests early without the justice system in place, because the justice system was obviously rigged. The swamp, and so he had to drain the political swamp, he had to drain the justice swamp, and he had to cut their money off, and obviously cut the adrenochrome off, and like just slowly dismantle the whole system. That if we look at it, it's been going for 6,000 odd plus years. That's not going to happen overnight. No. So we do need to remind the patriots to kick back, do what you got to do, but get your popcorn out. Don't worry that Biden's been declared the winner, because this is part of the show. It's part of showing how corrupt the election has been, and how they've rigged. What have they done? They've put extra votes in from dead people. They've gone in and been paying people to registering twice.
There's been some people that are saying they've been registered 5 times. And then you've got people who went to, I think it was in, which state was it where they were given Sharpies?
I can't remember, but I saw that, and they were,
And those people knew exactly what was going to happen to those ballots. It's like us, we weren't allowed to use some kind of pen. It had to be a certain pen. Like our government spent $730,000 on pens for the election.
Yeah, that was insane. Just so they were single use, so they couldn't contract COVID.
In our country, the family that we helped out, they're still homeless. It's unbelievable.
We didn't even need ID in New Zealand either. Sorry, just going back to that. Like I walked in and didn't need an ID. And everyone, I was asking everybody, did you have to show ID? No, nothing. Even if you didn't have your little easy vote card, it didn't matter. It's just like, how could this be happening? Because
That's how they would rig it.
you could easily go from one voting booth to another in the same day.
Last election?
Oh, look, I haven't. When was the last time? I haven't voted for years, for probably like 3 or 4 elections. So.
I can't remember it either.
I was pretty sure that I had to take my ID the last time, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, you can see how the fraud has happened in America. Like, it's so blatant now, and even the spike after they stopped the count, and then all these like hundreds of thousands of votes came in for Biden, and the spike, like it just doesn't
went straight up.
and it just doesn't match the natural statistical curve that happens. Like, it's just so obvious, and it's good because it needs to be so obvious that the people who are still
sleeping,
they need to be woken up. And
what needs to do is for them to really wake up real quick smart is that propaganda machine, the mainstream media, has to be brought down. Because if they're brought down, the reach for their bullshit is closed. It closed off because there's too many people awake on social media. That's why everyone's getting censored and fact checked. I'm getting shadow banned hard. I'm getting shadow banned hard. It's ridiculous what's happening, but because it's been years, like TV was invented specifically as a weapon.
Exactly.
A psychological weapon. And after how long? Like 70, 80 years? That's how long this 1% have been brainwashing the masses. So to try and deprogram people who have been brainwashed for 70 years, it's not going to work overnight. But what you have to do, just like these elite who had their adrenochrome supply wiped out, they all started, all their faces started sagging and all of that. So if we take down this propaganda machine, people's brains, their programming is slowly going to dismantle because they're not feeding into that anymore. That's why every time I do my lives now, I'm trying to encourage people to turn their TVs off, go outside, get out in the sun, do everything that they don't want you to do. It's just, it feels so good. Rebel and just enjoy life and be happy, because when you're happy in yourself and in your heart, you're raising your vibration, you're raising your frequency, and when you emit all of that goodness, it contributes to the collective on a global scale. So you imagine if every single of all the 99% had a happy day, right? If we had like, not like Christmas, or like Christmas, if we had happy day instead of Christmas day, and we all done something that made us really happy, and we were all happy at the same time, we would blow them all away just like that, because the one thing they don't want us to do is be happy.
That's right, and it is actually that easy. You just have to stop doing, like you're saying, what they want you to do. Like, just do not consent. Just don't partake in all the bad stuff. You don't have to worry about what you have to do. You just have to turn off your TV. I mean, dare I say it, like, stop, like...
Say it.
Well, like sports, for example, okay? Like, that's like another version of the Colosseum, right? And this is where I feel bad for men, because men, they are tribal, and they are naturally masculine and want that grit and want that fight and want that battle. But that's what sport was designed to do, is to corner them and cul-de-sac that amazing masculine energy that we love, that fighter spirit, that warrior spirit that wants the battle. But instead of them putting it towards protecting humanity now and protecting the women and the children from the 1% who are fucking us over, excuse me, but they're now channeled it into sports
and
where
destroying each other.
And they're just so cut off from their true masculinity, and they've got this fake version of tribalism and this fake version of camaraderie that. And then you add in the alcohol and the drugs and everything else. I mean, playing sport is great. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think it's awesome for men, especially to play sport and have that real physical interaction and that feel their power in their bodies. But the whole, again, watching TV and just sitting back on your couch watching sport, like, it's another mind control mechanism.
That's right. That's right.
One way is go and learn the haka. The haka draws in the energy and the power, and once they're finished doing the haka, they feel invigorated and free, because they've channeled all that anger and all that energy, and go and learn the haka.
That's
and they're
right.
not hurting anyone but themselves. Well, they're not even hurting anyone. They're not hurting anything. They are embracing their culture and their manhood and sharing it without having to destroy an opposition.
And that's, to me personally, that is one of the saddest things that I see happening right now with the rise of feminism, and because feminism is another mind control mechanism to destroy the family and to destroy men and to destroy that divine feminine nature as well that women have, because women have been mind controlled to think they have to be out there in the world being a CEO or running the country to be worthy of something. You know, and to be honest, when Jacinda Ardern got voted in and then it got announced that she was pregnant, and you know, I was one of the, at that point in time, I was like, she's getting groomed for the United Nations. Like, I knew enough to see what was going on, and I was devastated that pretty much every woman that I knew was worshipping her, that she was going to have this baby and after 6 weeks go back to work. And even within the early childhood sector, they were like lifting her up as if she's God's gift to humanity and God's gift to the human race. I'm like, that poor baby, like, is anybody thinking about that baby? Like, we were created to be the nurturers, and we have the gift to feed that child when they're a baby. at what point did it become normal to just give that up and expect the
Hand your kid
father
over
to
strangers to look after them?
or even the father, and I'm not negating the father's role, but in those early years it's obviously the mother that is supposed to be the primary caregiver.
Yeah, I can speak on that. When my brother and his ex-partner had their first child, my brother's been a worker his whole life, and his partner was a high school teacher. When she got pregnant with their first son, after 3 months she went back to work and he ended up staying at home, being a stay-at-home father. It killed him.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't the one providing for the family.
Yeah.
He wasn't the one out there doing all the housework and all of that, because he was stuck inside being the mum. And it destroyed his manhood for a while there, and he turned to drinking, turned to drugs, and the relationship didn't work out, and that's after 2 kids. So he ended up being a stay-at-home father for 2 children, and I could see how that destroyed my brother's manhood. Even though he loved his kids, don't get me wrong, he was proud of his kids and all of that, but he would have felt better within himself if he was out there working his ass off to provide for them, coming home whether he was tired or not. At least he was doing what he's meant to do. Men are made to be the hunters and the gatherers. They're not meant to be the mums. No, the mum's meant to be the mum. And like you were saying, for like Neve, having her mum go back to work after 6 weeks, the first 5 years of a child's life are the most vital years, because that's the grooming process, that's the grooming stages. You are setting your kids up to be the best that they can be in those years. But if you're constantly going to daycare or whatever, and you're around different people, you're not getting that one-on-one love and attention that is important for our growth, because we need to know who our family, who our parents are, what they're about, and it kickstarts you on your journey. But if you're learning from complete strangers who are going to change on you probably every 6 months, some daycares they go through 4 or 5 teachers in the first 2 years, how is that any good for any child?
Well, I'll tell you how it's good. It's good for the system, because like what you're talking about, that one-on-one relationship, like that's the blueprint, and that the mother-child relationship is the blueprint for every relationship that child will have in the future. So if that mother, basically, I think if the child's, like when they're still a baby, like I think it's within the first 18 months, if that mother is away for 20 hours or more, that child experiences it as a death.
It's a trauma.
Yeah, it's a trauma. So then you've got children, like you say, going to daycare, not being able to have that one-on-one bond with a teacher. So they're set up in their blueprint, in their programming, in their brain, to not be able to bond with anyone.
Yeah.
So then they're more easily manipulated by the system when they go out into the world, and they go through the education system, which is an indoctrination system, and then if they go right to the end, they get their PhD and they get a doctorate, saying they're 100% indoctrinated into basically the cult of ultimate evil, where they will be willing to do whatever it takes for the cult.
Smart buggers, eh? If
Yeah.
you think about it.
Yeah.
It's 1%. Mind you, it's taken millennia for them to put this plan together that was actually going to work.
And they had to do it step by
They
step
had
by
to do
step.
it
Yeah.
by step by step. And
Controlled you from birth.
Yeah.
it really breaks my heart.
But again, once you see the programming, like you were saying, you're awake to it, and you just see the world through a whole different lens. Like it's like lifting the veil, and then once you know their programming, and once you know who you are as well, and once you're connected to God and what He wants you to do, they can't touch you. And that's what they're so scared of, and that's why they're constantly doing this perception deception, trying to control your thoughts so that you perceive the world to be other than what it is. And that's why they've got this whole narrative, the whole lefty postmodernist, you just think you're a girl if you're a boy, you can think you're a boy or a girl, whatever, just think whatever gender you are, that makes you what you are. But it's like, no, there is actually a thing called reality,
Yeah.
and there is a thing called biology, and there is a thing called creation, and that's where they've just twisted everything.
Yeah.
And going back to the whole mother-father thing, to just emasculate the men.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's been annoying me lately, and it's like all the men baby wearing. Like, I don't know if you've noticed that, but it's big time here in Auckland. Like, they all wear the babies on the front pack, like the men.
Yeah, even just looking
Oh,
around
right,
here.
yes.
Yeah, and
yes,
that is a program that they're rolling out. Like, look, don't get me wrong, I think it's great when men hold their babies, and obviously they need to bond, and it's nothing like that.
Yeah.
But it's a program.
It's a trend, eh?
Yeah, they've made it a trend,
Yes.
and whenever something becomes a trend, I'm like, what is going on here? Like, this is a controlled narrative. Same with the tiny houses thing.
Yeah.
That was a cool kind of alternative thing, maybe for people that wanted an alternative lifestyle, but they've actually made it into a thing now where they want people to be happy with less. They want people to have no ownership of property. So they build this tiny little cage and they're happy to park it in somebody's garage. And people are going to be willing to accept that while they push the farmers off the land and they go and buy up all the land and they can enjoy nature and the great outdoors and have their
Set up
space.
satanic ritual sites.
Yeah, and meanwhile we're
Gathering
all
holes.
living in a little shoebox,
Yeah.
happy
Conditioning
for what
when
we've got.
they're putting us all into the cities and the high rises.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, they twist everything that's good and they
Yeah.
make it to suit their own agenda. And that's the whole 95% of what Satan says is true. It's just that last 5% that he wants you to eat, that
Yeah.
he's wrapped up in that chocolate
Yeah.
and then he's put it in there and then people are just gobbling it up like it's the tastiest
Like
thing
chocolate
ever.
lovers,
Yeah.
chocolate lovers. But what you were saying before about stepping into yourself and your own truth, when you discover your purpose and what you've been put here for, I think you said it last night, was it Brooke? Like one of you two said it last night, that we all have a purpose.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what Satan wants is for you not to discover that.
Yeah.
And that is probably the key to the door in all of this, because it's been like that for me. Uncovering the trafficking ring was only the beginning. It was what came afterwards that sent me down these rabbit holes, is how I found myself. It's how I found my place in the world. It's how I discovered that God had a purpose for me, and my whole life has been a grooming stage for this trafficking ring, and it was his way of waking me up to all of this. And when the veil lifted for me, he was on the other side of that veil, and I don't fear nothing no more. I don't care what anyone says about the fact that I supported Billy in advance. There was a reason for that, and it was that they were my hope to change this broken system, because I felt like at the time, they were honest about what they were wanting to do for us, and experiencing what we did and seeing how broken the system was, I believe it was our only shot at changing it. And I don't care what people say about the fact that I support Trump. I love that man with all my heart, and I will shout it from the rooftops, from the highest hill. And if you want to troll me for that, God bless you all. It doesn't really matter what you think about my opinion. What should matter to you is what you believe. Like, have you done your research? Have you really looked into anything?
Do you know what you're supporting?
Or are you just gonna trust mainstream media and what they're telling you? If that's the road you're gonna stay on, it's not gonna end well. Because on the path we're on, when you walk in your truth and you're in your purpose and you're willing to put it all on the line because you believe in your heart what you're fighting for is truth and freedom, not just for yourself but for everyone. I'm doing this for everyone else before I'm doing it for myself.
Yeah, well, because so long as one person is still in slavery, we're all in slavery.
Yeah, that's
because we're all
right.
connected.
And so no matter how many of our friends and family has cut us off, we're going to do whatever we can to still support them and give them what they need to wake up, because we love them. And there's going to come a point when all of this is all going to blow up, the truth is going to be revealed, the veil's going to lift, and you're gonna have to stand in your truth. And I'm sorry, but if you're supporting Joe Biden and Jacinda Ardern and the Labour Party, our New Zealand government, mainstream media, all mainstream media, it's I feel sorry for those people, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
After 70 to 80 years of programming by this propaganda machine, it's really not their fault.
But we can't also, because all the information's at your fingertips now, right? Like,
that's
there
right.
kind of isn't really an excuse
No.
for not knowing. Like,
Yeah.
pretty much we've all got access to the internet.
Yep.
We've all got we can all read, most of us now, and they've written all the books about it. So you can't really claim, like, if you're going to claim ignorance, it's because you're choosing to ignore it.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's not because the information wasn't available.
And if you've got friends that are woke, that you think are conspiracy theorists or crazy, if there's anything I can say to you, is just for a moment, sit with those people, no matter how crazy you think they are, and just take one thing that they're talking about and go and do some research. Go and look into things, like go past the first page, because you're not going to get everything straight away. Like for me, when I research something, I make sure that I've got 4 or 5 sources, not just one source, not just one piece of paper. I really dig it in because I don't want to get caught out.
And I think that's the problem, that most people don't have the willingness, like the will forces are being cut off. So they don't have the tenacity or the patience or the strong desire to learn. Like there's this real thing in New Zealand, like, why would you want to know that? Why do you care? Like growing up, because I would always have my 2 cents to chip in about things, or I'd want to know, and they're like, what do you care about that for? Like, why are you even bothering? Like, you're just a busybody, you're just a know-it-all, you're just like...
And that's what makes you a good journalist.
And I just want to know, you know, and I just want people to tell me why. Like, why is that happening? Why are you doing that?
You care about
And how could you not be interested?
Yeah.
I guess I've just always had a natural interest, and it's just going back to what you said as well about that grooming, that God does groom you for something, and that's how I feel like, because I've always had that natural interest in politics, I've always had that natural interest in the media, and
Are you the black sheep in your family?
In terms of definitely. Yeah, and
because what we've noticed on our trip around New Zealand is everyone we came into contact with, or
had a chat to.
Or had a chat to, or that we stayed with, that have been following us, actually getting to meet them, we're all the black sheep.
Yeah.
All the conspiracy theorists have always, like you say, you've always questioned things your whole life. You've always wanted to know things. That was with everybody that we met that are woke. You know, they've always had this natural instinct to want to know stuff.
Yeah, and I don't.
That's a fantastic attribute to have.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, you're just going to be a sheep your whole life.
Yeah, and that's half of what they're counting on, is that it's that the fear of not fitting in, and that they want you to just go along to get along.
Yep.
And I did rock the boat in my family, and I did even call stuff out in my family, like dynamics in my family that were unhealthy. And so when you're standing there pointing things out, everyone points it back at you, because in order for everyone to stay in relationship with that one person, they have to play the game. And I guess I've never wanted to play the game, and I've always stood up within my own family. Yeah, and in the end, I kind of just had to just live my own life, you know, because I don't want all that drama, and I don't want all that pain and agony. I don't want to be fighting them. Do you know what I mean? Like, I did my best. I hung in there for like so many years trying to get them to see sense and trying to create peace. But if they don't want it, I'm not going to fight them for it. And I'll just move on, find people like you guys, you know, soul family, or like just the true family that want peace and want to live in truth.
Like-minded people. And I think a big thing that we've found is all us conspiracy theorists, or, you know, people that are questioning what's going on, we all think from our heart first. And that is so important. Like, it's probably the most important thing, is that you think with your heart. You feel, it's like that gut instinct. You know when something's off, man.
And that's, to me, what Christ is about, like living in this Christ time. that Christ will come through the hearts of man, and Christ is here to awaken, like that, what you're talking about, that discernment, that God connection. And once you align your heart and your head with your hands, and you do the action in the real world, you're unstoppable.
That's right.
And that's what they don't want. That's the main. That's the biggest conspiracy. That is that every conspiracy in the world is built to stop you from realizing that.
That's so right. Like, that is spot on. That's what it's all about. The spiritual warfare. Like, if people were to actually wake up to the fact that the children are the underbelly of it all, it just takes you straight to God. You know, so they've been hiding all of this bullshit, trying to dumb us down so that we don't have that relationship. Because once you've made that connection with him, and once you give of yourself to him and you take him into your whole being, you live like...
And you want to serve others. It's that service to others and not service to self.
Like, we're so happy. Like, we're happier than we've ever been. Like, we're still working on things, you know, as a couple and as individuals. But the majority, we feel so good in ourselves. And last night was a massive testimony to that. Like, if you could have gone into my being, you would have been blinded by the light that was in there. And that was just through feeding off people's energy and support and love, because I think if there were people that were in there that were on the fence, I think they fell into our paddock, really, because it was just awesome to be a part of it, and I really can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, same. And I think that's another thing about what this whole COVID thing has been about, because again, they know that when there's a group of people resonating at a certain frequency and they're in that heart space, we can move mountains. And they know that, again, we're in the times of revelations where everything's going to be laid out and people will be able to have the free will to choose. And also that there are these things called truth vibrations coming in onto the planet Earth right now from outside of our solar system that they clearly don't want us to tap into because they know their time's up. And so with COVID, keep everybody in fear of one another, keep you isolated, keep you distracted, and then we can't actually come together in those groups to actually come up with a plan and come up with action. And because last night it was like about, for me, of course, it's about truth and getting people to see what's really going on, but at the same time you've got to inspire people and you've got to give people a bit of hope and a bit of light so that they can walk out of that room and feel like, yes, I can change the world in my own little way. Obviously, well, and this was my mistake as a lefty, thinking I could change the world and like with climate change and all these other left-wing narratives, but actually it's you change yourself. And once you change yourself and you tap into God and you tap into light, and it ripples out, like what you were saying earlier, you know, and that's the key to it all. Once you take self-responsibility, because we've all got a story, we've all had bad things happen to us, but if you're going to remain in a victim mentality, which is what the left wants, and they want you dependent on government handouts, which is actually basically dependent on your neighbour, because your neighbour's paying those taxes to give you that money. So, and that's what, you know, I went to see Helen Clark and Teresa Gadding speak the other day, and I've got to still do a video on that. But they're basically saying, well, we need to look outside of New Zealand and help everybody outside of New Zealand and not be so insular and not... It's basically saying don't be a patriot. So they're basically saying you need to be a globalist. And it's like, yeah, but are you offering people to come and stay at your house? Are you letting the homeless come and stay at your house?
In your 15-bedroom mansion.
Yeah, so at what point are you going to put your money where your mouth is and actually help the less fortunate than you? Not through some charity where you're doing your dirty dealings and like funneling your money and getting tax rebates and whatever else. And, you know, there are other stuff that you obviously all know about that they do through, but it's just... And they make it sound all fluffy and nice that helping everybody's great. But it's like, just help yourself. Just help your family, help your neighbours in your own community. And if we all did that, like once we're in a good position, if we've got enough to share it. And that's what I think most people do. But they're trying to condition us to think that we need to buy into this whole refugee fake crisis that they're building so that we've got to let all these people in and then we've got to pay for everything for them. It's like, why don't we just help them make their countries great again? Every country could be great, and then we don't...
That's right. There's enough resources in this world we're smart enough now. We've come so far, like in technology and all of that stuff. Where, like you said, we can all help each other. Nation help nation, not fight against each other. Like it's like the time has come for peace.
And I think we should take this opportunity to talk about, just briefly, the Trump thing, because people don't need to worry about this whole Biden getting declared the winner. Like, this is just a show.
Yes,
It's going to expose the fraud. It's all going to go to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Trump will be re-elected,
Yes.
and he'll be inaugurated in
Amen.
January.
Praise the Lord.
Until then, it's going to be a bit of a rocky road, but people just need to sit back, do their thing, do your little part to play, eat your popcorn.
Yeah.
But then next year, in the next 3 years, the rollout of the Tesla technology, hopefully the Victor Schauberger technology, all this stuff to actually, the med beds, to make people healthy, to give people abundance, to give people freedom on all these technologies that the 1% have suppressed.
Yep. 6,000 patents,
Tesla patents.
6,000
Can you talk a
Tesla
little bit more about
patents.
that?
So what this 1% have done, Nikola Tesla, right? Mad, smart scientist. He was the one who discovered that Mother Gaia, Earth, is an energy source, and that everything, the old saying, everything is connected. Everything is energy. It's all connected. Everything has a purpose, right? And he found that the number one frequency to connect to the source is love. That's why they are trying to destroy us and cause chaos, because they don't want us to love each other. They don't want us to love this, what we have. So Nikola Tesla found that out, and he came up. He used to invent things in his mind first. He could defragment all his inventions without writing it down on a piece of paper, and he could pretty much create his creation in his mind, build it, and then put it on paper, and it would work perfectly, right? This is the history of Nikola Tesla. So he came up with roughly 6,000 inventions, and I'll just go through a couple of them. So the first one that we discovered was med beds. So the med beds are pods that you put through, sort of like if you've been through for a CAT scan and you go in the little tunnel. These are pretty much what these med beds are, and it takes 2.5 minutes to change the frequency within your DNA and within your cell structure to wipe out any disease, to cure any fractures or anything. 2.5 minutes in there and you're pretty much cured. And it can also, what is it when the elite use adrenochrome? It gives them longevity.
Yeah.
Longevity. So this is what these med beds do as well. The other thing that he invented was magnetic levitation, which is what the 1% have been using in all these underground tunnels around the world. So if you watch Black Panther or Hunger Games, they use maglev trains on there. Hunger Games, right, is a metaphor for what the 1% have been doing by capturing children, putting them in a forest and making them hunt each other while they watch on TV and they get a kick out of it. This shit is real. You need to look into the royal family and what they got up to back in the day.
The hunting parties,
Hunting parties, but especially the Netherlands. The Netherlands royal family, they are the worst of the worst. So, and I encourage you to look into all royal families around the world and hunting parties. That will explain a lot about what Hunger Games is about. And Black Panther, if you watch Black Panther, Wakanda is real. Wakanda is a real place. The technology there is all Tesla inventions, and they have been hiding all the stuff. So these maglev trains, someone spoke about it last night and said they travel so many Ks in a minute. Well, what they're saying is the tunnels underneath New York City, there's a tunnel system that goes all the way to London. They can get from New York City to London on these maglev trains in an hour and a half. And this is how they've been transporting the children all around the world. When you guys find out about the tunnel systems in New Zealand and how far those stretch, I'm aware of 3 major tunnel systems that connect us to the Philippines, Melbourne and Antarctica. So this is a technology that Nikola Tesla invented. Also the boring machines that they use to build, to tunnel out these tunnel systems was invented by Nikola Tesla. The other thing that we've been looking into is
Free energy? Tesla coils?
Yes, the Tesla coils and Tesla towers. They've already started in Texas. I believe they've put the first one up, and pretty much there's a county in Texas, I can't remember the name of it. They're running on free energy. There's no wires anymore. They don't have input outputs, plug-in things. They don't have that anymore because everything runs off energy. And the other one was, he invented a car that runs off grass, the energy of the grass. So it's a hover car, and all it is it runs off the energy that the grass feeds off.
Wow, I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah. So look into that one. And there was a article that was written about the car where, and I think it was Henry Ford. Henry Ford actually got the patent for this car, and he actually invented it, and then he was taken out because he managed to...
Oh, Henry Ford brought it to reality, and they took him out.
And they took him out.
Okay, wow.
Because the car could run off the energy of the grass. It didn't need fuel, it didn't need fossil fuel, it didn't need electricity or anything like that. It just ran off the energy of the grass.
Because you hear that a lot about the car that ran off water too.
Yeah.
And then the big companies would go in and buy it, claiming they'd make it, and then they would just sideline it.
Yeah. Because no one's going to make money off that.
Yeah, exactly.
So the car thing, there's an article written that what would happen is that once all this bullshit was all over and all these patents are released, that all the tar seal roads are going to be gone. Concrete's going to be gone.
So are we going to be hovering? Are we going to have the flying car situation thing?
I believe it, because it's one of his patents. And if everything runs off energy, which I believe,
And will they be quiet? Because I don't like the noise, with the drones and stuff. I don't really want a world full of drones. Yeah, like cramping our silence,
I don't know. We'll have to see on that.
Yeah, because you can kind of see it going, like Blade Runner styles, where they're going to make it a real dark life and a dark world.
Yeah.
But
No,
maybe it's going to
be like that.
maybe it is going to still be nice.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're not going to be emitting any carbon.
Not that carbon's even bad, because the trees need it.
Yeah. But whatever they're saying about
pollution at least. Bad pollution's probably not good.
And all of that stuff, there'll be none of that anymore. So we're going to be breathing in beautiful, clean air.
And the chemtrails obviously stopped. The geoengineering.
I
Did you
can't
see all
wait.
those pictures come out though, of Merkel and in the backs of it must be the hangars
Planes.
where they've got all the
Yes.
big
Yeah.
things, and
Yes.
it's like I was like, wow, they are disclosing this information now.
Yes.
And obviously the patents are real, you can go and easily
Yeah.
find the patents on geoengineering.
On our trip, we went to a fellowship night. It was our first fellowship we've ever been to.
Yeah.
And this woman, Desiree Hill, she was our host for the evening. She had this magazine that was written back in 2016, and it had Donald Trump on the front. And she had it open, and it was all about chemtrails.
Really?
Yes, back in 2000.
What magazine was it? Do you
I can't
remember?
remember. I will message her and I'll
Yeah.
get that info for you.
Was it a mainstream one or just
No, it was
was it uncensored or oh?
No, it wasn't Time. I don't
Time's
know.
pretty
Time,
Time would be
wouldn't-
massive. Yeah.
They wouldn't report that.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'll get the name off
They were
her.
kind of making the connection in a way that Trump might be working for good to end it.
Yeah, I
kind
think
of.
so.
Maybe?
I think so. But yeah, Nikola Tesla, look into him. There's so much information out there in the internet.
And Victor
about
Schauberger,
him.
have you come across his work?
No.
Oh, you'll love him.
Okay.
He's like another one that had his work stolen. He's an Austrian who was like a forest kind of caretaker, and he would watch the flow of the water, And to me personally, you know, the whole watch the water thing. You know how, and there's always obviously double meanings and triple meanings. For me personally, I made that connection myself. I don't know if it's real, but I like to think that watch the water was referring in one sense to Victor Schauberger's work. And when the penny dropped for me, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be crazy. Because I had researched Victor Schauberger years ago, and it's about the water and how he realized the flow of the water, and he would witness the fish dropping down to the bottom of the stream, just sitting there, no flapping of their fins, and not moving. And the water was rushing past them. And how is it that they're not expending any energy to stay there and they're not being washed away? But they'd open their mouth and the water would kind of flow through them. And then he worked out the way that the water flowed through them was in a particular way, and it had a particular magic to it, basically, that he worked out that if you could get water to flow in a certain way, it could get ionized and it could bring healing properties to the body. But essentially, that's one of, like, because he was another inventor and he came up with all these inventions. And Hitler at the time found out about all of his inventions and asked him to come and work for him. And he also found out about how to make crafts hover and all this, you know, amazing stuff. That he then, well, he said, no, I'm not going to come and work for you, obviously. But then Hitler didn't take that very well and basically made him. And in the end, stole all his inventions and put him in a mental asylum, and he died a pauper, like Tesla. But this guy's also got healing properties with the water, because it's magic, and they don't really understand it fully. But there's so much power in water that if you ionize it in the right way and drink it, the body heals.
That's probably what Kangen was, eh?
Yeah, Kangen water. Yep. Yeah. And I haven't looked enough into that to know if that traces back to Victor Schauberger. But there's awesome documentaries on Victor Schauberger. Anyway, you know, that's just another awesome inventor that I hope has.
Like, we love looking into new things. Yeah. Like, we love researching now, and like we were actually going to go home and go down the JFK rabbit hole because we heard a little story the other day and it kind of piqued my interest. So we were going to go home and go down that rabbit hole, but then when we talked to Joe Joseph last night about the common law, I don't know enough about common law, and I really want to kind of have a look into that.
But see, you know, I mean, like, because obviously the 1835 flag in New Zealand is the true New Zealand flag, like the Declaration of Independence, and how they never lowered it, and then they raised the false flag, the counterfeit flag. Yep. Well, apparently they've done that in America too. So with all this Jasara Nasara, and it all went back to the flag as well, and the whole counterfeit flag. So it seems to me that they've done this in a number of countries to get out of common law. They had to raise a counterfeit flag to put them into admiralty law, and that's the whole contractual law. And
with the gold tassels.
Well, that's the martial law.
Oh, martial law. Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't gone down far enough to look into the American side. But they do say that when Trump went to see the Queen, and he completely disrespected her and walked in front of her and just was basically and then it was because they'd already taken America back from out of the corporation system that was owned by the Queen, and they'd actually brought true independence to America.
Because it's only New Zealand and America that had been given true sovereignty from the Crown by King William.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah,
okay.
It was only our two countries. Right. That's why they call. Some people say that it's Australia and New Zealand, but it's not. It's America and New Zealand.
Right. Okay.
That's why I think Trump's got so much. Why he really is trying to help us, because he knows we're actually the other country that was given true sovereignty by King William. I don't want to get into my thoughts on our declaration. I'm pretty out the gate on my thoughts on that, because I believe that we're sovereign once we're born. We're sovereign people of God, and
that's our birth certificate that makes us.
I understand that the only reason why our tupuna signed that declaration was for safety reasons, because we're such a small nation people had discovered, other nations had discovered us, and you had people wanting to occupy everyone's land, so they needed a fleet or an army that would defend us if we needed to, and England were the only ones, I guess. But
well, as long as you're operating within God's law and within the principle of do no harm,
that's right.
then you're a true sovereign being.
Yeah, that's right.
And as long as you're not stealing off anyone, you're not harming anybody's body, you're not what else could you do? All these things that you could
do all good things.
Just do the right thing.
Yeah.
It's morality. If you're a moral person and you're not harming anybody, then you can't go wrong.
That's right. All nations should be sovereign and all helping each other, not trying to overthrow each other and take their land and their people. That hasn't worked for how many years now? Now it's time for something different. Squash all these bloody contracts with other nations. Let's all sign one piece of paper that says we will not invade your space or your people as long as you do the same for us.
Yeah.
But let's trade and share each other's goods because I'll tell you what, I know we've got the best meat. I know we've got some of the best produce in the world. So people are going to want that from us. So we've got a massive market here that we could send worldwide, and everyone could be happy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that another narrative, because I don't eat meat. I mean, I have started eating fish again lately, but I would almost go back to being a meat eater to support our farmers. Because veganism has become a globalist New World Order agenda to destroy farming. And it's a trend, right? So they're pushing everyone, and yes, it is healthy to eat more vegetables and fruit, but this fake meat that they're going to be pushing, this lab created meat that you've got
3D printed.
Yeah.
Some of it's going to be 3D printed.
Genetically engineered.
Genetically modified, all of that.
I would rather seriously eat a grass-fed cow that's had a happy life than that rubbish.
That's how it should be. That's how it all should be.
And if we go back to that small family-based farming rather than the corporate farming and the factory farming, that's what life was about, and eating some good cheese and some good butter and some good milk, that you've had a relationship with those animals that they actually happily want to provide for you. Because it's funny, I don't know if you've read the Anastasia books.
No, but I heard
The Ringing Cedars of Russia.
Yeah.
Amazing books. Not any great work of literature or anything by any stretch, but to me a true story, and to me based on the ancient Vedic knowledge that has come from Russia, with these amazing cedars that connect you to God essentially, and the divine frequencies coming in from the universe. But she talks a lot about the importance of having your own little garden, your own little dwelling, and how we're all connected. And this is getting a bit deep, but if you get the seeds from the plants and you put them in your mouth and give them your saliva before you plant them, and you plant them at the right time of the lunar cycle, they will actually pick up on your DNA, and they will create in themselves what your body is lacking.
That's pretty good, eh?
Yeah.
And I so believe that.
And straight away.
Yeah.
And same with your first urine of the morning. If you were to go and feed them that, it's another mechanism for them to understand
that makes so
where you're
much
at.
Sense.
Wow.
So then going back to the animals, she's saying that the animals want to serve us. The animals want to be around us. They love the light that's resonating from our hearts, because we are different to the animals.
Yeah,
So people like to degrade us and say, we're nothing more than animals, but we're not. We are the next level of evolution, and we are the next level of creation. And they want to work with us. So they want to provide the honey for us. They want to provide their wool for us. And sometimes if we do it in the right way, they will sacrifice their life for us. So obviously I'm not saying do the factory farming and the whole real degradation of animals, but we can work together with them, and they want to be of service, is my point. And the vegans, there's this whole dark side of veganism that's got to the point where they're saying don't have children, humanity's a disgrace to the earth, and once humans are gone, the animals are going to be so happy. But the thing is, they need us just as much as we need them, and they want us to be on this planet with them living in harmony. They don't want us gone. the plants need us too, because when you grow a garden and you put your love into those plants, they're singing.
Yeah.
They've done those experiments, where like if you speak kindly to plants, they grow healthier, whereas
Yes,
if you
yes.
are aggressive towards plants, they're going to shrivel and die. So there is a symbiotic relationship going on with nature, and in that kind of invisible matrix, the healthy matrix, not the fake one, but that it's just so miraculous. Like we can't even really begin to understand it, but it's there, and we all need each other.
Yeah.
Without us, what would this place be for?
Yeah.
Like, what is it going to be for?
Yeah. So the vegan thing's trying to get people not to have children. They're literally saying like that men should go and get the
Snippy.
yeah, and that basically just that whole narcissistic go and live your life. It's all about your body. It's all about your looks. It's all about having the best life you can, and just try and have as much narcissistic experience as possible, rather than
Being your true self.
yeah, and having a family and raising your children and loving life and valuing human life.
Yeah.
And that's actually something worth striving for. So it's just another example of how they corrupted a health trend. The whole wellness industry is just
It's like every time one avenue fails, they try another avenue.
yeah.
So they've probably got everything lined up. Okay, if they don't accept us, they will go this way. If they don't accept us, until they find a way.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's all about division,
Yeah.
That's right.
causing chaos.
Yeah.
So that our vibration stays low. Because when you're fighting with your friends about trying to express each other's truth and make each other accept each other's truth, there's no love in that.
That's right.
There's
It's that dialogue and understanding of the other, because you're always going to be you.
Yeah.
And you're never going to find someone that's 100% in alignment with everything that you think or do or say, or me, or you, because we're all individuals, and that's what makes us great. And we're all in a minority of one.
Yeah.
And we're never going to.
Debating is good for the soul, you know.
Yeah.
Because you learn from that. Like there's still things I don't know. So when I have debates with people, I like stop and say, hang on, okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah, and being able to just hold an idea in your mind that you don't necessarily agree with without just dismissing it straight away.
Go off and do your research.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Well,
Putting your ego down and opening up a book or jumping online and just looking into something that you've heard that is so far-fetched, you're gonna blow yourself away, man. But you're gonna enlighten yourself, and that can only bring about good vibration.
yeah, and you might go through a bit of darkness at first, because everything that you thought was true is going to crumble, and you're going to have a crisis of identity, because you're going to be like, what? I'm not this, or I'm not, the world's not that, and you'll freak out. But you've got to remember there's another side to that.
Yeah.
And
the truth will set you free. And when you know the truth, it makes you feel good. And when you share the truth, it makes you feel good.
Amen. That's such a good note to end on, I think, because
Right.
yeah, and I'd rather be on my own knowing the truth than living a lie with a whole bunch of people. Hey,
That's the most important thing, is to stand in your truth.
Yeah.
And if you got God in your heart, and you accept Him into your heart and know that He is real, you can't go wrong with that. You can only bring about love, peace, and happiness.
yeah. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for what you do. You're just sharing such a wonderful message around this country, and you've inspired so many people. And the room was on fire last night, and
it was.
to have you guys contributing to that was just phenomenal. So thank you so much. Safe travels home, and look forward to seeing you again.
Bye, guys.
Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.